Hi everyone, welcome to our second webinar series of the Expressive Arts exhibition. There are two moderators as you can
There's no viewer yet.
That's why please alert us when got
Yeah.
viewer only we talk.
Just continue to say.
Yeah. Hi, so
Good morning.
Morning, Deva.
So today we're back with our second webinar.
Yeah.
So how do you feel so far with our webinar going on?
Yeah, great. So this is our second webinar.
Yeah, continue.
So I think we should be able to start already.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to our second webinar for Expressive Arts exhibition. As you can see, there are two moderators here. I'm Ms. Teva and this is Ms. Valor.
Hi.
I will start off our session for today and we will end with Ms. Valor with the Q&A sessions later. So once again, welcome to this live webinar titled Art Therapy, Exploring Emotions Through Art Making and the Creative Process. Brought to you by the Psychology Department of Segi College, Subang Jaya. So before we begin, I'd like to do a quick tech check. Can everyone hear and see us clearly? And if you can do that, please type yes in the comment section. Okay, I think that's good. We are good to go in terms of tech. So let's move on for now. So before we move on, I think Ms. Valor can give us a quick briefing on what we're going to do today.
Yeah, hi viewers. So this is our second webinar for the Expressive Arts exhibition initiated by School of Psychology at Segi College, Subang Jaya. Everyone are welcome to participate in our virtual exhibition by submitting any type of creative artwork which will be displayed on our Instagram page.
Moving on with our webinar today, our session should take approximately about an hour. During the session, we encourage you to type your thoughts and your feedback and your questions in the comments below, and the speaker will try to answer your questions and read your feedbacks during the Q&A session towards the end of our session today. So we would also like to inform everyone that this webinar is recorded and we will use it will be used by Segi University and colleges in the future.
All right, I would like to add on the artwork submission. So the submission is open until 14 March. So to participate, go to our Instagram page. Yeah, as you can see on your screen. So the submission link is in our bio. So follow the page too, so you can see all the creative artwork submission, including yours.
Okay, so I think we can continue with our webinar today. So quick video for Segi's programs. those who have just joined in, I would like to welcome you guys once again to this live webinar on art therapy, exploring emotions through art and the creative process. So before we begin, let me introduce you today to our speaker, Miss Dana Karina. She's a licensed art psychotherapist. She underwent her training in the UK and practiced in the UK for a while before she moved to Malaysia. Ms. Dana has worked with children and adults through art therapy. She believes she can nurture confidence and self-expression through art, that is, the freedom of creativity. She's also a self-taught artist, so today she will walk us through how art substitutes words when we can't find any. Without further ado, let's welcome Ms. Dana.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope everyone is well and safe and can hear me and see me clearly. I'll be reading the comments as we go along, and I'll try to be as engaged as possible. But let me just start off by saying thank you to Segi College for this opportunity and for inviting me to speak on art therapy. I'm really excited to be sharing some of my experiences as an art therapist so far. And I hope, I can make this as engaging as possible, because I understand sometimes, webinars can be a little bit dull. And in conjunction with this being an expressive arts themed month and exhibition, I have included some art activities that we're going to be doing throughout the session. So I really hope you enjoy. And also thank you to the psychology department for putting up this event. I think it's really inspiring, and I really hope that, this webinar will inspire you and make you more curious about, this profession and what art therapy does, because I think it being such a new kind of field, especially here in Malaysia, I know there's a lot of people who are curious about it. So I really hope I'll be able to answer some of your questions today and, any curiosities you might have. Let me just go through a little bit about what I'll be discussing today. And I will be discussing, first of all, my personal journey as an artist and an art therapist, and how I got here, my journey so far, how I became an art therapist, what that journey was like. And then I'll be going through a brief introduction into art therapy. I'll be talking about some of the misconceptions, which I think is really important to discuss and clarify. I'll be talking about some of the benefits of art therapy. I will be discussing my thesis as well, which is called Exploring Mess. So that was my thesis for my master's in art psychotherapy, which I think will be quite interesting to share with you all. And also I will be discussing some of my experiences of doing group work with adults with mental health issues, and also working with children. And I'll be sharing some therapeutic art activities that you can do at home towards the end, to hopefully inspire you to get creative at home. So, all right, we can go on to the next slide. And the moderators will be helping me go through the slides today. So first of all, I hope everyone has some art materials ready, some papers, it can be an art block. It can literally just be an A4 piece of paper, pens, markers, or color pencils, anything that you kind of have laying around the house. I just thought, it would be a good idea to keep this as simple and as accessible as possible. And what we're going to be starting off today's session with will be the Scribble drawing activity. And the reason I chose this activity is because I find that it really helps it kind of just getting started, getting your creative juices flowing. And, based on my personal experience, I tend to do this sometimes at home too, during the MCO and during this pandemic. Sometimes you just want to get off the screen, off your phone, and do something creative at home. But I understand it can be quite intimidating just to start, especially if you're not, used to engaging in arts, or you're not an artist per se, although we all are. So what I would like to encourage you to do is, throughout this session, I'm going to be, first of all, showing you the step-by-step kind of instructions into how the scribble drawing activity is going to go. The two images that you see on the screen now are two examples of scribble drawings that I have done. So on the left, the more simple one is the kind of one that I'm going to be showing you today. The one on the right is basically the same foundation, except that it has a little bit more detail, as you can see. So I've added more patterns and lines. So that's the fun thing, once you know the foundation, you can feel free to explore and experiment, and also feel free to use watercolor if you have any, whatever you enjoy using. For this one, I've used marker pens, which I, personally enjoy using a lot because I think it's just very easy to have around. I kind of carry it around with me sometimes as well. And what I want to do is, right now, let's all get a piece of paper. Hopefully you all have some papers in front of you today. So I've just got a simple A4 kind of sketchbook. And what we're going to do is we're just going to try and do this activity throughout the session. So what I'll be showing you now. So if you could get a pen, I've got a pen here and the paper. So what we're going to do is, the whole idea of this is to not think too much, is the kind of idea of letting go and, just going with the flow. This activity is supposed to be relaxing. It's not supposed to be stressful. And remember, it's, it's not about the end result. It's about the process. It's about, calming yourself down, helping you focus. And the reason I chose to do this today in the beginning of the webinar is so that you could do this throughout the session. So maybe you could color in while I'm talking and going through, because I feel that sometimes engaging in this and coloring and just, being in that kind of calm space helps us focus a little more. But of course, that's entirely up to you. You can feel free to do it after the session, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you now. So, all right, I've got my pen. So what I like to also incorporate is some breathing techniques, which really helps bring us into the present moment. And I think it really helps, calm me down and makes me less nervous. Of course, doing a webinar can get quite nerve-wracking sometimes. So I think breathing activities incorporated into art activities can really, really help. So what I would do is, I've got a pen, sorry, that you have to shake. I'm just going to show it like this. So what you would do is you just start anywhere. The whole idea is just to scribble. So scribble just anything as long as you like. You can feel free to stop whenever you feel is right. So I'm just going to keep going. And what you could do is, sometimes I like to tell my clients, when you go up, you can inhale, and when you go down, you can exhale. So I think that's a really fun thing to incorporate, just adds another extra element. So just keep going. You can make it as, scribbled or as minimal as you like. So I think I'm going to stop there. So this is what I have. This is what I have so far. And, once you're done with yours, once you feel that you're happy with your scribble, it's not supposed to look, amazing just yet. Like I said, it's all about the process. But what you can do is, like I was showing you in the other slide, you can add some patterns in it as you go along if you really enjoy that. Sometimes line drawing I find to be very therapeutic. You can add some lines, or maybe you can go ahead and add some dots, anything you like, really. Just feel free to really express yourself with this. Just enjoy it. That's the main thing. And I would say that, throughout our session today, why not go ahead and color it in? And, maybe you could share your feedback and share some of your images with us towards the end of the session or during the session. And we could, all have a look at it, and we can also discuss how we felt and, kind of how it helped us during the webinar. Did it help us focus? Did it help us feel relaxed? I would love to hear your feedback. So I hope you enjoy that. We've got another art activity coming up at the end of today's session, but this will be the one that I would encourage you to do throughout the webinar today. So if we could go to the next slide, please. All right, so first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Dana Karina, and I am a licensed art psychotherapist and also a self-taught artist. And I think I'm gonna, kind of take you through a personal journey of how I got here and how I got to become an art therapist, because this is a question that I seem to get a lot, from friends, even from family. Like, how did you get into art therapy? Because it's a very niche profession. And, if you asked me about when I was 18, which was about 13 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that, I wanted to be an art therapist. But, now in hindsight, looking back at my journey and my experiences, it all kind of makes sense and how everything fell into place. So, how I started off was I did my psychology degree here in KL. And I then went to the States to finish off my degree. So I was in Hawaii Pacific University doing my bachelor's degree in psychology. And I was 18 and this was my first time moving away from home. I chose the most random place in the world. I really chose literally the most isolated place in the world, the islands of Hawaii, which is absolutely beautiful. But of course, I was there for 4 years. I was young, I was excited, but also there were times I got very, very homesick. And it was my first time being away from family and from friends. I didn't know a single soul that lived there when I moved. And that was a very brave thing of me. But obviously, I think throughout my whole experience there, I found myself, going towards art and leaning towards art making without me even kind of realizing. So my art journey kind of started there. When I was a child, I did enjoy arts very much. But I think growing up here, it wasn't very encouraged, not necessarily by my parents, but in general, there wasn't really much conversation about being an artist or, the benefits of art. Art was just, a class that you did in school that, was just this kind of break time and this free time where you cannot study. But, now when I think about it, when I look back, it was actually such an important class for me because it was the one place where I really felt I could truly express myself. And I was the happiest in art class, but I, never kind of knew how to verbalize these feelings and didn't really understand the importance of it at that time, unless I look at it in hindsight right now. But so I went to do my degree in psychology, and as I was, studying really hard, I found myself doing a lot of painting in my free time. It just started off with random doodling at home, and it started to, I started to do it more and more, and I just found myself doing it in all my spare time. Even when I was out, I had a sketchbook with me, and I never really thought of myself as an artist. I was just thinking, hey, I really enjoy doing this. I'm just gonna keep sketching and keep painting. And then after a while, I, started to produce a body of work. I got my first solo art exhibition through the help of a friend. This was towards the end of my time in the States. So this was after 4 years. But I had produced, about 20 paintings throughout my time there. And I'm sorry I don't have any of the images of my really old stuff, my first body of work. I just couldn't seem to find them. But what I thought was really interesting is that, that was my first time seeing myself in the form of paintings in a series of work. And, I remember talking to one of my professors who was teaching counseling, who was teaching kind of general counseling. And he was asking everyone, where do you see yourself after your degree? And I was the only one that just randomly blurted out, I want to do art and psychology. Excuse me. So I wanted to do art and psychology, but I wasn't really aware that art therapy was a profession that actually existed. But I remember telling him and sharing in front of the class, I really want to incorporate my love of art and my love of, studying the human mind and, psychology together. And it was actually my professor who said, that's art therapy, it's something you should look into. And that was kind of the aha moment. That's when I started thinking about it more. And now when I look back at my old Facebook posts, it's interesting because even before I knew what art therapy was in the sense of what I'm doing right now, I was hashtagging all my paintings and my sketches with hashtag art therapy. So maybe I kind of manifested, the profession I'm in today 12 years ago. But that's just something interesting I thought I'd share. So anyway, I got my degree in the States, I had to move back to Malaysia. And, this wasn't part of my plan. I was hoping to stay in the States because I had gotten really comfortable. I had made some really amazing connections. I started working in a preschool in an early years center in Hawaii after my degree. I got like a 1 year work visa. And that is where I really, got my first experience working with children in an education setting. And I really enjoyed it so much. And, I just found myself being more in charge and more into the creative kind of aspects of learning. So that's kind of where it all, the fruition began. So, just to share with you a bit more of my personal journey, and I'm just going to be really open with you. I moved back to Malaysia after, that 1 year working experience. And, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't very happy. I was in a really bad place for 2 years when I moved back. I was about, 20, 22, and I just felt really lost. And I just felt, I've got this psychology degree now. What am I going to do with this? And I was lost. I was confused. I was very, very depressed, and I was living with my family, so they saw me at a really bad place. They saw me at my lowest of my lows, and this was for 2 years. But still, during that time, I was just painting in my room, and this brought me a lot of peace. It gave me a lot of encouragement, and still made me feel some sort of sense of pride, the fact that I was still able to create. Because, when I was in Hawaii, I was just kind of creating it to relax. But over here, I was really expressing a lot of my pain and my, the things that I was going through in this really safe way. I feel very fortunate to have had that safe way of expressing myself, onto a canvas, because there are many other negative ways we could, deal with depression and things like that. But I feel very blessed that I was able to find this way to express some very difficult feelings. So I produced about, 7 pieces of work throughout that 2 years, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I think for a person in a really bad place, that is it's quite a good number actually. And so if you could go to the next slide, please. So I don't have too many images, unfortunately, of some of the work that I did, but these 2 images were made during my time back in Malaysia when I just moved back, during that time that I was talking about. And the amazing thing about art, just like music, it can transport you back to a moment, to a time. And, when I look at these pieces today, it just brings me back to that moment. And, it really makes you reflect like, wow, that is how I was feeling that moment. You remember exactly, what you felt. It really brings you back to that place. And that is the kind of powerful thing about art. And, the same thing as music, I think we all can kind of agree, and we've all got some experiences of, listening to a sad song to, feel the sadness even more. When we break up, we listen to a song that reminds us of, our previous relationships and things like that. They transport you back to a time. Art and music and creativity, I think it transcends time. And, these were done in about 2014. And this series was called Disconnected. So there was 2 other paintings that were part of this series. But as you can see, the image on the left has 2 faces. And I just felt, I wasn't sure of myself. I didn't really know who I was. The one face was the real me, and the other one was, this confused me, this person with this degree, that did everything right, that, passed with flying colors and all of that, and had a great experience. So I should have been really grateful. But I felt so disconnected, from myself because I still felt unhappy, even though I had, achieved not all my goals, but at that time I had achieved, the goals that I had been working really hard for. So as part of the disconnected series, the one that you can see on the right with the disconnected body parts, I think that was how I, expressed my feeling of disconnect. So as you can see, the hands are separate, the nose and the eyes, and the colors that I have used are quite. They give me a sense of. I'm not sure. It's just there's quite a heavy mood to it. I think they're still quite bold, quite colorful, but if you compared it to some of my current works and recent works, my colors right now are still as bold and as colorful, but they didn't have as much black and darkness. And you can see the strokes, they were made out of a lot of anger and frustration. So I just thought it'd be beneficial, and I just want it to be real with everyone, about my personal experiences, because it's such an important part of my journey as to where that has made me who I am today. And art is such a big part of my life. And I said I'm a self-taught artist, and I never went to art school, so it's a very raw experience for me. I always kind of lack this self-confidence when it comes to calling myself an artist, just because I don't have the educational background in it. But I think as a message to everyone out there, you don't have to have that background as long as you can express yourself and really be true to who you are, in any creative way, be it music, dance, acting, theater, painting, clay making. Keep doing it. Keep going, keep expressing yourself, because it's all part of self-discovery, which I think is really important in any journey, and especially in the journey of healing. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So here I'm just sharing a little bit, some text about my journey of self-discovery through art. So as you can see, painting had allowed me to release a lot of anxiety and to focus on the present. I have quite, how should I call it? A very occupied mind. I tend to have a million and one things on my mind at once. And when I'm painting, those thoughts tend to go out the window. I am focused on myself and the present, which is a very important thing, which I find a lot of people struggle with, being in the present. And I can say myself as well. And, we're always worried about, the future. A lot of anxiety comes from, not feeling the sense of control over the future, not knowing what's going to happen, all this uncertainty. And also, maybe looking back at past mistakes and having anxiety over that. So one of my main goals and my main focuses throughout my life, and even until now, was to just enjoy being in the present. And other people can find other ways, such as like through meditating or anything like that, but I find that painting and expressing myself through arts helps me stay present in the moment. Also, the other thing I noticed was a difference in different art materials. There's watercolor, there's clay, there's acrylics, there's oils, markers, there's all sorts of things. There's collage making. And the one thing I found, through personal experience and also through working with clients, is that different art materials bring different feelings. And, they make you feel differently. Some people thoroughly enjoy watercolor. Some people enjoy acrylic. Some people enjoy watercolor because of its free-flowing kind of state. And I think it evokes a very relaxing feel. Some people prefer oil pastels because it's much more pigmented, and you can really get that frustration out with oil pastels, sometimes until it breaks as well. I'm sure you all have experienced that with oil pastels or crayons. And also, I was just able to reflect on how all these different mediums allowed me to express different feelings, not just me, but also clients that I work with. So we can go on to the next slide. So, okay, I'm just gonna quickly run through what is art therapy. I think we all hear about the term art therapy being used very loosely. when you ask people what is art therapy, I'm sure everyone has kind of heard of it, but no one actually knows what it is. So I'm going to share with you the definition by the British Association of Art Therapists, BAAT. So art therapy is a form of psychotherapy that uses art media as its primary mode of expression and communication. And within this context, art is not used as a diagnostic tool, but as a medium to address emotional issues which may be confusing and distressing. So, the term art therapy is basically those two words, art and therapy. It's a mix of art making and talk therapy. And, the creative process plays an important part in the therapeutic process. And I think the one thing with today that people get really kind of confused by and that I need to clarify a lot is, you see art classes being called art therapy, or you see, unlicensed art therapists or people that haven't had any training, or just, artists calling art classes art therapy. And I find that to be very misleading, because that kind of plays into the whole confusion about art therapy being like art class. So, I'd be kind of interested to hear your feedback later on, your kind of questions surrounding the term art therapy, and if you've experienced that kind of confusion when you read about, art therapy being offered at places that's without a licensed art therapist. So I think, to be completely ethical and to we got to be very mindful of the way we use those two words together, because as someone that has trained as an art therapist, it is definitely not like an art class. And I think this kind of blurred lines in the way the term is used can get confusing for a lot of people. So which is why I enjoy doing things like this and sharing my thoughts, because I feel that there is a lot of confusion out there that I constantly need to clarify, but which I'm more than happy to do, create that kind of awareness around it. So, I think with art classes or art therapy, sometimes when people are unaware of what it actually is, they might go into an art therapy session thinking that they're going to be doing arts and crafts, and that they're going to be, it's going to be a really fun session. I'm not saying that art therapy can't be fun, and we can't have fun sessions, but, it's real therapy with art making. We're going to explore really difficult feelings, and it's very raw. It's expressing your most inner world through art. And, I think that's what people need to understand as well, that it's not just all glitters and rainbows as you might see in some art classes, and I'm not dismissing, art classes out there, because people do find art to be very therapeutic, which I will not disagree with at all. I'm just talking about the way those two words are used together. We definitely need to be more careful with that and be more aware. So if you have any more questions, surrounding this towards the end, and any kind of confusion that you need cleared up, please feel free to throw that out there in our Q&A later. All right, so we could go to the next slide. So I just thought I'd share this image, which was, like huge, a big part of our training when we were discussing what is art therapy. So basically, art therapy is a triangular relationship between the art therapist, the client, and the product. I mean, the artwork itself. You can't have an art therapy session without these three dynamics. They all play a very important part to each other, and one cannot be without each other. So that's what I'm saying with, all these art classes and stuff. You can't call it art therapy if you don't have a licensed therapist involved. In art classes, you have the product and image, and you have the client, and you have the art teacher, but not an art therapist. So I just thought, I'd share this image that is that could hopefully clear out and explain a little bit more about the triangular relationship of what it makes, to be an art therapy session. And if we could go to the next slide, please. And I've got a quote here about, the goal of art therapy. So the goal of art therapy is to utilize the creative process to help people explore self-expression, and in doing so, finding new ways to gain personal insight and to develop new coping skills. So I will be, discussing in the next few slides some of the benefits and, how art therapy can help. So we could go into the next slide, please. So why art? Okay, personally for me, as I explained before, art to me feels like a really safe way and a safe place to express yourself, and it can be any kind of feelings. It can be, it can be anger, it can be happiness, it can be joy, it can be, feeling of loss. And I just think it's such a beautiful and powerful way to express yourself that, you don't have to do through words. Because I think for me, the reason I became an artist is because I actually do struggle with expressing myself through words sometimes. Maybe I'm a little bit better at that now after a lot of, um, reflecting and a lot of learning and unlearning. But I remember when I was younger in primary school, I had a lot of insecurities. I had a lot of anxiety for a child. And I did not know, what exactly these feelings were, which is why I said, I really enjoyed art classes, because that was the time I got to really, I was like, wow, this is just mind blowing to me, that I got to put what was inside here onto a piece of paper just using some color pencils. But there was no sense of awareness around that, about why art was so important. You know, when you think about it, when you're in preschool and when you're a really young child, you're always encouraged to do art. But why do we lose that as we grow up? So that's something that, which is why I'm also an art therapist, and I enjoy working with, people of all ages and all backgrounds, because I think creativity should be nurtured even at our age, or, even later in life. It doesn't matter. But I just think it's something that we should really, nurture all the time. We shouldn't lose it. Why should we only, get messy and play with paint and do finger paintings when we're, 2 or 3 years old? Why can't we do it now? There's a lot of kind of, I guess, stigma, with making art when you're older. Everyone's like, oh, maybe you're not busy enough, you have time to do art, and or you're just procrastinating. You could be doing other more useful, more productive things. But art is actually such an empowering thing, and I just really, I really want to inspire and encourage people to really get creative in any way you can, whenever you can. So I'm just going to read through some of this about, why art. So art has long been known to have therapeutic properties, and using art materials to make images which can be thought about with a qualified and registered art therapist may be helpful to relieve difficult or painful feelings that can help increase general well-being. So, the thing with this is, I realized that, when you hold on to all this difficult feelings and you don't know how to express it or to let it out, sometimes it builds up the anxiety, it builds up frustration, which can eventually turn into anger, or, other things, other negative things perhaps. And with art, once you've released it, it feels like you've kind of taken something out of, your inner self in this really safe way through art. And it's something that you can look at and be proud of and say, hey, that's me, and I was able to express that. Also, someone just commented that, yes, it's a shame that expression through visual arts is not emphasized after preschool, and worse still, even during the early years. Exactly. I think, we can all kind of relate to that. I'm not sure what it's like now over here, but I don't think that art is still something that's very encouraged. We are so focused on academics and reading and memorizing. I remember in school just, memorizing things to get by, because I just wanted to, ace everything, and I wasn't really learning. I was just, wanting to come home with those A's and wanting to come home with, not a big X on my paper. So I think it's all about priorities, isn't it? But it's all right, I think as long as we are open and we're willing to learn and, we're willing to be more aware about this problem, this situation, we can actually do something about it. We can start with ourselves, first of all, and then we can start with, our families, our kids, or our siblings, our parents, even. So yeah, sometimes, words just cannot be used or found to describe thoughts and feelings, but the processes involved in image making and the images themselves can help to do so. So sometimes when you're drawing, you don't actually know what you're drawing until you reflect and look at the image after. You might have these feelings come up and you look at it and you go, oh, that's the reason I drew that. Or, it makes sense why I chose that color. Once you're able to understand how important it is to reflect on your artwork as well, that's how you can learn a lot about yourself and the image that you've made. That is a really powerful thing as well. And yeah, sometimes words alone just don't seem to be enough, but the images and word together may be able to convert what one wants to say. And the other thing I want to talk about is how it's not only art making that has its therapeutic benefits, it's also viewing art. So I really encourage people to go to art galleries, go to museums, and go to theater, and just really kind of expose yourself to art out there. I think there's a lot of fear and intimidation, I guess, surrounding anything to do with art, because people always go, oh, but I'm not an artist, I'm not a creative, so I wouldn't understand it. I think that's a very big misconception and a big kind of stigma surrounding the kind of art world. And I am an artist and I can understand, because I remember going to some galleries living in London where there were all these amazing artists, and I felt intimidated because I was like, well, what do I know? But really, we all are artists at heart, and we should all be able to go out there and appreciate art, because I feel that when you view art, just the same as listening to a song. So imagine listening to a song and you start to feel something towards it. You just go, wow, I feel like this person really gets me, or this person is, speaking about my experience. I think that's, similar to when you go out and view art. You could go to an exhibition and look at something and go, wow, that has really moved me. And these are all very beautiful moments to experience in life. And I think that is very important, because it's so important to kind of get out of your own kind of, views of life and your one perspective. And I think, viewing art allows you to open your eyes more towards what other people see and how other people experience life, and, other people's perspectives on things. And that's why I like to encourage people of any age to just go out there, go to exhibitions, meet artists. And and when you go out and view a painting, for example, what I would do sometimes with the kids when I worked in London is that I would take them to museums or galleries, and everyone would have a little sketchbook, and we would go around and I would ask the kids to go to your, show me your favorite painting and tell me why this is your favorite one. Sometimes the comments that come out of their mouths just absolutely blow my mind. They talk about feelings. This makes me feel, sad, or, that man looks sad in that painting. I think that's the beauty of it. And reflecting is so important. So I encourage you, the next time you go out there and see, go and look at some art or go to a gallery, maybe, whatever piece that you're drawn to, get a sketchbook, keep a sketchbook with you at all times. Maybe think to yourself and ask yourself, why were you drawn to that particular image? How did it make you feel? And then maybe you could do some reflective artwork after. You could do your own interpretation of it. And, these are all little ways to kind of just instill this curious nature and this curiosity to be creative. So I think Carolyn Chu has just said, I particularly appreciate art in nature, sunrises in particular. Yes, although it's too much for me to share in this webinar just because of time restrictions. I can definitely agree with you about appreciating art in nature. I'm a huge nature lover myself. And actually, when I was during my training as an art psychotherapist, when I was working in an early years center, we were trying to incorporate eco art therapy. So it was kind of a forest school actually. And what we would do with the kids is, rather than being in an art room, we would bring them out into the woods, into the forest, and we would use natural materials such as fallen leaves, sticks, mud, and all that stuff, because I think that's a whole nother form of therapy as well. The therapeutic element of being in nature. I'm more than happy to discuss more of that in the Q&A later if you're interested to hear more about eco art therapy and working with natural materials. So Helen Yo has said, hi, does digital art help as much in terms of therapy as conventional methods in art making? This is a really good question. It's something we discussed a lot in our training. Sometimes when you had to do online sessions, some of our clients only had access to, maybe if they were lucky, they had an iPad, or they were more comfortable doing digital artwork. Of course, we encourage using physical materials such as, paints, because you can really, I feel like it's a cathartic kind of process. And what you feel from holding a paintbrush, getting your hands messy with the paint, or using clay to build something, is just a whole different cathartic experience as opposed to working in a digital method. But you know what? Even if you're working digitally, you are still expressing yourself. So I think that's the most important part. I definitely would not discourage that. Some people just have different preferences, and I don't see anything wrong with that. But definitely, if it's just this kind of fear and intimidation of getting messy or using art, like real art materials, I say, have an open mind to trying that out. But definitely, I'm open towards digital art as well. As long as you're expressing yourself, that's all that matters. So we can go to the next slide, please. So this is a quote: art therapy, a safe space to be who you really are. This is kind of feedback that I get from a lot of my clients, adults with mental health issues and mental health disorders. This is, I feel like, one of the number one kind of feelings that they really want. They just want to feel safe, and I think art therapy really allows that. So, I feel like the canvas, you got to remind yourself the canvas is your friend. It does not judge. The paper does not judge. No one is there to judge, which is why it's such an amazing way to really express yourself no matter what you're feeling, whether it's something bad, whether it's something good. So essentially, that's what we're trying to create here, a safe space, especially when I work with my clients. If we could go to the next slide, please. So these are some of the biggest misconceptions about art therapy. I get, just throughout my experience, these are the kind of a lot of the opinions, I guess, and a lot of the feedback that I get when I tell people about art therapy, or sometimes, adults especially would tell me why they're hesitant to try art therapy out. So the biggest one, I think, is you need to be an artist or good at art. Nope, not at all. All you need to do is to have an open mind. You just need to have that curiosity, just an open mind to explore and to experiment. That's basically all you would need to come into an art therapy session. You can have absolutely zero experience, although I doubt any of us have had zero experience with color pencils or any form of art making. I understand that throughout our adult lives, probably, I'm sure there are actually a lot of people out there, especially people who are very busy, who, work in offices or work in kind of corporate professions where, art is just not something that even crosses their mind at all. So I can understand that fear of, feeling this need to be a creative person. But, what I like to tell people is that we are all artists in a sense. We were all born creative beings. We were all born with a need to express ourselves. So just coming in with an open mind is all I would say is needed. All right. The second thing is it is only for children. You see, this, kind of correlates with art being for kids. And that is something that I really want to, build awareness around. That art is not just for kids. Art is a lifelong thing. It doesn't matter what age, and art does not discriminate. Anyone from any background, anything, any class, whatever, any kind of age, even if you've got some physical disability, there are other ways to express yourself. It's for everyone. And also the other thing is it's just arts and crafts. Again, this comes back to the idea that it's for children. So, children, arts and crafts, this is the kind of mentality and the narrative that people have in their minds about art therapy. It can be arts and crafts, if that's something that you want to do in a session, that's fine, then we can explore that. But it's not necessarily just arts and craft. It is about the process. It is not about, what we make. It's not about the end result. And another big misconception is that as an art therapist, I can diagnose you and figure you out just by looking at your image. It's not magic. I think, there was this movie recently, Parasite, which had an art therapist, the fake art therapist, which was his sister. So this was a big conversation during our training when that movie came out. This idea that people have about art therapists, it's always you working with some really scary child, and this child just draws really scary images, and you're able to just look at an image and just go, but that's just not how it works, because that will be judging someone based on an image, which is not at all what we do. It's completely not that. It's, as a therapist, we are just there to guide you and to explore feelings that are brought up during the process together, which is why we do this all together, in the art therapy relationship. There's the therapist, the artwork, and the client. So I think just because of our time limit, I'm just going to quickly run through. I think we've got about 10 minutes left, and I still got an art activity in the end. So I'm just going to run through the slides, and hopefully, I won't be speaking too fast. But okay, this other big one is that coloring books are art therapy. So again, here it's about the term art therapy being used very loosely. Coloring books, yes, they can be very therapeutic, but it is not art therapy, because it is just a form, I think, of self-care in a moment. It's just it's a fun, relaxing way to just get out of like a busy or negative headspace just in that bit. But in the long run, it's not something that I think could, help resolve deeper issues. And as I discussed before, art therapy and art class, two different things. Art class, I think you're more focused on the end result, whereas in art therapy, it's all about the process. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So benefits of art therapy, I think I've, kind of shared it a little bit. So if we could go to the next slide. I'm just going to quickly run through some of the benefits, because I think there's some interesting things I want to talk about in the next few slides. But basically, combined with talk therapy, art can help people deal with strong emotions, increase self-awareness and self-worth, and also decrease stress and anxiety. The nature of art making, if you're doing it, not if you're doing it right, but if, if you've got an open mind and you've experimented with it enough, you can find your kind of place, the one thing that, the one way of making art that can help you reduce stress and anxiety. So it's all about exploration, finding what works for you. If we could go to the next slide, please. So this is one of the major benefits, expressing your inner world. By expressing yourself through art, an art therapist can help you see things about yourself that you otherwise may not have comprehended. And we can help you process emotions and feelings that you are struggling with so you can begin healing. I think with any healing journey, self-discovery plays a huge part, because without really knowing yourself, how can you learn and unlearn? So I think this is how art therapy comes into play, into helping that. And it is the idea of self-exploration that can often lead a person to some insightful conclusions about themselves. And don't be surprised if the effects of art therapy lead to a general sense of relief and overall better mental health. Again, it's therapy, but with a completely different ingredient than most people are used to, art. So, these are one of the benefits, expressing your inner world. And if we could go to the next slide. This is just an example I thought I'd share. This is one of my pieces that was made during my training. It's called Dream State, and it was just an expression of this dream that I had that was very vivid to me. And I was trying to understand all these kind of symbolisms in this dream. There were birds, there were, wilting flowers. I think this probably was a time where my grandpa was really unwell and he was dying. And I was having a lot of vivid dreams that were quite dark. And, I felt it very important for me to express and to put these dreams onto paper. And, now when I look back at it, I'm so glad I was able to express that, because sometimes they were quite heavy for me to keep inside. And it helped me explore, ideas of, I guess, consciousness and death. And it really made me think about all that stuff. But just thought I'd share with you an image that I made. So, drawing out your dreams as well, I think is a really amazing experience, because a lot of times we tend to forget what they actually were, but sometimes they were just so vivid. And if we could go to the next slide. So another benefit is improving social skills. So I'm just going to give you a quick example about how, it can improve social skills. So I was working with MenCap Society, which is UK's largest charity for people with learning disabilities. And I ran an art group once a week for about a year and a half with the same people. And, a lot of them, they were living in these kind of dorms or places where there were other people with learning disabilities as well. And I think what they were kind of experiencing all the time was just them and their caregivers, and not really kind of socializing with, people who weren't experiencing the same things as they were. So I felt that in this group, what I really noticed was, that social aspect was so important, just even sharing art materials, or, sharing what they've done and expressing excitement and, passing things around and wanting to do things together. All these little things, are actually such big things for a lot of people. So if we could go to the next slide. Okay, I think we're in a time constraint right now, so I am just going to run through. I really wanted to talk to you about working with children and, discussing my thesis of exploring mess. So if we could just go through the next few slides. So that was the title of my thesis. I think I just wanted to show you all that art making is not just about, drawing pictures. It can be expressed in many different ways. All these images, if we could just go through these slides as well. As you can see, all these images were just like mess made by a 2.5-year-old who had been through a very traumatic infancy and who had experienced, neglect and abuse, and have also been living in a violent household, basically. So I just wanted to show you, some images of what an art therapy session could look like. If you could go to the next few slides. A lot of mess making, and when I was a trainee, I was just completely bewildered by this. I was like, what do I do with all this mess? But if you could, maybe in the Q&A, you can go ahead and ask me more. But it was kind of mess in relation to trauma. And maybe, if you're interested in this, you could go out there and read some interesting research on this. There's quite a few out there. So art therapy, mess making, and childhood trauma. If we could just go through the next few slides. And then this is group work that I've done, with homeless people in KL. And this is kind of what I do as an art therapist. So here's some images from that session. If we could just go through the next few slides. And I actually shared some art activities, some therapeutic art activities that you can do at home. And from my understanding, this video will be up on YouTube, so you can watch it again and have a read through, and hopefully these will inspire you to get creative at home. There's some really fun things that you can do. We could just go through the next few ones. There's a Zentangle drawing, color wheel of emotions. Next, please. The gratitude tree. Next. So sorry, I'm having to just run through all of this, but basically, art is for all, and I really hope that I've been able to inspire you, and hopefully I've answered some questions, or answered some of your curiosities. I'm not sure if we have time for this art activity that I have planned, which is the hand portrait art activity, and that's what the final result looks like. So maybe okay, so we do have time. All right, so I'm so sorry we had to rush through the last few slides, but you can feel free to watch it again and contact me if you have any more questions. But so what we could do now, okay, we got a question by Tiba. Do we still express ourselves when we watch painting videos on YouTube and follow the step-by-step guidance to do the painting? Yes, I think if we are getting in touch with what we want to express, even though we're following step-by-step instructions, if we're bringing our own, kind of self to it, then yes, definitely. Sometimes I feel like, we do need some sort of instructions, but then you bring your own personality to it, and that is definitely expressing yourself. All right, so for this hand portrait art activity, this is the one that I did with the art group that I was mentioning before, when we did a kind of an art day with people who were homeless. And I think this is a really fun, simple way, even though it looks childish, does not matter. If it's childish, it's great. You're getting in touch with inner child, which is something that I would definitely encourage. Express your unique self through these art activities, and don't forget to also share with us your images, and your feedback. And I will just go ahead and show you my piece, which was in the image. So what you would do, let me just do a quick run through. What you would do is just outline your hand. First of all, I think we've all done this in school before in some way. You outline your hand, and then you do the kind of same method I was showing you just now, but not really scribbles, but just more lines that end at the end of the paper. So just go across so that you've got some, some little boxes and categories. So this one, clearly I was feeling very calm during that time, which is why I expressed that, my love for nature. It was probably a very nice sunny day, and I was having just a really good day. But what I would want you to do is, just feel free to really express yourself. Draw things that you like, draw things that you don't like. And then maybe on the back, what you could do is ask yourself some questions, how did I feel during that art activity? And how, why did I draw this particular thing, or why did I use those colors? I think the reflective part of an art session is as important as the art making itself. And, we should all, after doing any form of art, I would definitely encourage you to, even on the back, just get a pen and write down your feelings, write down what you learned, write down how you felt. And then, you can always look back at this in the future. So, and then keep learning about yourself, keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep having an open mind. All right, so we've got a question from Helmi. I'm so interested in the color wheel of emotions, how the colors represent the emotions. Would be nice to explore them. Yes, you can look this up online. You can just Google the color wheel of emotions art activity, and yeah, try that at home. These are really fun, interesting ways to learn more about yourself, and to just, yeah, just all part of self discovery. And I think they're just nice ways to just get out of your head for a bit, and to get away from your phone and being bombarded with all sorts of information, to really get to put aside half an hour a day to just really get in touch with yourself. So Pushpa said, I love art. I'm at age of 59. Can I attend any class? Yes, of course. My biggest inspiration was actually um, growing up was my grandma. Until now she's 85 and she's still making art. She lives on her own. Her life partner passed away and she's got Parkinson and she's got a lot of illnesses, but art is the one thing that really keeps her alive. And and yes, definitely, it does not matter what age you are. Art transcends time and all these kind of narratives that we have about art being for children. Let's, stop with that narrative and just have an open mind, express yourself, encourage yourself to express yourself. And it's not a waste of time. It is really important actually. So, please share with us your images. I really hope that this webinar has inspired you in some way. I really hope I wish I had more time to talk about more stuff, but I guess now we can go to the Q&A if you have any questions for me. Let me see. Let me go through the. Okay, so Enchi Zarul has said, prior to my internship experience, I used to incorporate art therapy in dealing with clients with disabilities, and it was an amazing method to help them express and regulate their emotions. Yes, definitely. I can definitely agree with that. Oh, wow. Okay, this is really great to see some of the images that you've shared. So we've got one by Diane and and it's someone who chose to remain anonymous. So Diane says, a mind with full of barriers and feeling trapped. And Anonymous said, my mind. I love this. This is the amazing thing about activities like this and art in general. You could give everyone the same brief, but everyone has their own unique way of, doing the activity. They will never ever look the same as each other. It just goes to show how unique we all are. And, that's the beauty of expression. And I'm really happy to see these images. It'll be also interesting to hear how you felt and, if it did help being more focused during the webinar. I'm just trying to see if I've missed any other questions or comments. Basically, right now we're in our Q&A bit of the session, so feel free. But yeah, once this session has been uploaded onto whatever platform, maybe YouTube or something, please feel free to go back and listen to this session and, go towards the slides where I shared some interesting and fun therapeutic art activities we can do at home, especially during the MCO and stuff now. I just think it's nice to, get involved in some art making at home and just kind of enjoying yourself a little bit. I think it's just a great way to express yourself in times like this. I know some days it's more stressful than others. So I encourage you to, take out a few minutes of your day to engage in some art making. So I really hope it helps, and I hope you've enjoyed the session. I think our moderator will be taking over soon.
And how we can explore our emotions through art making. And I think we have addressed all the questions asked by the participants earlier during the session itself. So on behalf of all our participants, I would like to again thank Ms. Dana for her sharing session today. Yeah, I'd like to remind all of you again regarding the artwork submission. So the art that Miss Dana has requested all of you to do about the hand, and yeah, so you can take time to complete your art and you can submit to the link that we are displaying here. Yeah. Okay, so this is the link. So submission is open until 14 March. So you have ample of time to complete your art. And you can actually submit multiple artwork. Yeah, indeed. So yeah, and you can visit our Instagram page to view all the submissions, including yours. So yeah, that's all from us today. If you don't want to miss any of our upcoming sessions, you can also subscribe with us by joining our Telegram group.
Just showing off the Instagram page again.
All right, so this is our Instagram page. So all the submitted artwork will be displayed here until the end of March. Yeah, so you can join our page and you can also share this information with your social circle so that everybody can follow our Instagram page and submit their artwork. All right, so our upcoming webinar, our third webinar for this expressive arts exhibition is scheduled on 27 February, and the fourth one it will be on 6 March. So stay tuned. So before we end our session today, on behalf of Segi College Subang Jaya, I would like to again thank all of you to join our webinar today. Stay connected and see you next time. Thank you.
Next, last slide. Thank you.
Sorry?
You don't have any empty slide or anything?
No, that was the last one.
Mhm.
There was no empty slides on it.
The first slide. Oh no. Video. But you look at the video. Okay, it's okay, good stuff.
The PowerPoint slide is
Replay the video again.